Hey everyone, welcome back to Happy Hour. I'm Craig. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe. We miss you guys. We can't wait to break bread and have a cocktail in the near future. But in the meantime, we'll bring some cocktails to you and things that you can make at the house while we're all going through these times. So today we're gonna make an old fashioned as our base. So technically an old fashioned is not a specific cocktail, but it is a style of cocktail. You can make an old fashioned out of bourbon, out of tequila, out of brandy. You can make it any spirit. Today we're gonna make one out of bourbon. And we're gonna take a little twist to it at the end and make it a little more fun than maybe normal. But we'll go through the heart of what an old fashioned is first, and then we'll have some fun later. So we're gonna use bourbon, one of my favorite spirits, an American distillate and product. It has to be at least 51% corn in the mash bill. So the mash bill, think of it as the recipe that you need to make before you can distill. When you make whiskey, you have to start with beer. It's a distillate from cereal grains, so rye, wheat, barley, corn. For bourbon, that recipe for the beer has to be at least 51% corn in order to be called bourbon. There's several other guidelines that the US government has put in place to qualify what bourbon is, but by definition, bourbon is delicious. So we're gonna start with 2 ounces of bourbon. And now we're gonna use what's called Demerara Syrup. So if you've been to a coffee shop and you've seen those little brown packets that say sugar in the raw, that's technically what Demerara sugar is. Demerara is a region in Guyana that's famed for their sugar cultivation and their rum making. But we use it as a colloquial term in a style of syrup. This is sugar in the raw syrup. We take 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, heat it up just so it melts. And we've got this really thick, rich sugar syrup that pairs very well with brown spirits, and more particularly in the old-fashioned style of drinks. So we're gonna do 1/4 ounce of the Demerara syrup. If you don't have sugar in the raw, you can use brown sugar would work, or you could use simple syrup, and it will add, it'll be a slightly softer style of drink than it will a richer, fuller one that Demerara does or brown sugar will. You could also do the sugar cube with some bitters and muddle a cherry and an orange. It's a sort of well-known classic way to make it. This is sort of the more minimalist approach where we want to have a clean, booze-forward, bourbon-forward style of drink, so we don't add the element of orange or cherry when we muddle as a flavoring element. But in order to balance it, we need to add bitters. So this Angostura bitters, we're gonna do 2 dashes. But note that a dash is not a physical movement, but it is a unit of measure when it comes to making cocktails. So you may need to put more than 1 or more than 2 physical dashes based on how much bitters you have in the bottle. The more liquid you have in the bottle, the less will come out because of the airflow. The less you have in the bottle, the more liquid will come out because of the airflow. So you need to gauge it based on your palate and your preference. So now we've got our bitters, our sugar, and our bourbon here. We're gonna stir it. This is a stirring glass and our bar spoon. This happens to be a Trident spoon. We're gonna add some ice so we can stir the cocktail. The act of stirring, we wanna chill the drink. We also wanna dilute it in time for when we're ready to enjoy it. So it's no different than shaking. When we shake, we dilute and we chill at the same time. Stirring is no different. When we stir, it's an act of our fingers. You push in with your middle finger and you push out with your ring finger. And that motion, because of the glass being a cylinder, the spoon will automatically go in a circle. You don't have to try to spin it. You don't need to move it around. It's all within your fingers and the spoon will stay in generally the same place. So now we're gonna give this a good stir. So now if we were finished with making our old fashioned, we would then strain it into a rocks glass with an ice cube in it, and we would take an orange peel and express it over the top to get the orange aromas. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take it a step further and we're gonna smoke our old fashioned. So we're gonna take, this is just a wine decanter that I had laying around the house. We're gonna strain the cocktail into the decanter. you'll notice this is a slightly different strainer. This is called a julep strainer. It's a very flat spoon with a bunch of holes in it. We use this spoon when we strain out of a stirring glass or spirit-forward cocktails. So now we're gonna take a smoking gun, which is an apparatus from Polyscience. I use a lot of their equipment in my days in the back of the house and working in kitchens. So we're gonna take the smoking gun, we're gonna add wood chips. So today we're gonna use cherry wood. So we're just gonna put a little bit in over the screen. We're gonna turn it on, use a lighter to light the wood chips. And now you can see inside the decanter we're full of smoke. Make sure you have some windows open when you do this. We don't want to set off any smoke alarms. And now I'm just gonna cover it up with a glass just to keep the smoke inside. I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna move the cocktail around so it gets all the smoke flavor in it as well. I'm gonna put an ice cube into our rocks glass. We're gonna open it up. Now you can see all that beautiful cherry wood smoke coming out. I'm gonna pour it over the cocktail. Try and get as much smoke out as we can. Beautiful smell. Now we're gonna add some Amarena cherries, which are brandied cherries. And now cheers. We have a smoked old fashioned. Stay home, stay safe, be well. We miss you all. Look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas Strip soon.